welcome to October. Happy Thanksgiving. It is that time of the month again where I get the pleasure of reporting on the stats, the real estate stats for the month of September. And it is interesting to say the least. But before we dive into it, I know I'm getting a lot of calls about interest rates and how is the interest rates going to affect the market. So this is going to be an ongoing topic for a while yet. Well, it's a well-known fact that the interest rates have definitely slowed things down, and these stats I'm going to show you have proven it, but the bucket has not fallen out of the bottom of the pail as some people might have thought it would. There's no question that we're probably going to see even more interest rates rise. I spoke to someone that would be considered an expert in this department. They explained to me yesterday one of the factors that we're dealing with is we do have to keep up to the United States, because if we don't keep up to them rising their interest rates, our Canadian dollar falls. And if our Canadian dollar falls, into the 60 centile range, or what if it got down to 50%? Could you imagine all of the goods and services that we import from the US into Canada, just how expensive that would be? So that would be a real inflationary problem as well. So this is a real juggling act. Rising rates to slow down inflation, but also keeping our Canadian dollar reasonably at par with the United States. I mean, right now we're still low in the 70 cents, and that again brings some of the product that we import into Canada to be quite expensive. So it is a challenge, and it's going to be impossible to not keep up to the US when it comes to interest rates. The good news is the 5-year fixed, a lot of people are confused about the 5-year fixed. It does float with the bond rate. So just because the interest rates rise, doesn't necessarily mean the 5-year fixed is impacted immediately. If you are on a variable rate or adjustable rate mortgage, you will feel it immediately when those rates go up. But if you're on a 5-year fixed, or even if you're looking at getting into a mortgage after rates go up, the 5-year fixed generally doesn't move right away, even though rates do go up. So just keep that in mind. So that being said, let's dive right into some of the stats and show you what they look like. Now, I'm starting out with a chart that I don't often start with right away, but I wanted everyone to see this chart because it is a very good chart. I want to do a comparison between September 21 and September 22. And you can see for Calgary, we did 2,157 sales in 21. We did 1,900 this year in September of 2022. So we're actually down 11.87% in volume. That's not that bad considering the rising of these rates. But where it gets interesting is if you look at the new listings, 2,625 compared to 2,907, we're actually down 9.7% in listing inventory. And our active listing is at 4,453, down from 5,621. That's almost a 21% drop in inventory. So with lower sales at 11.87% and a big drop in inventory, if you actually do the math, we're in a better position this year than last year. Most people don't look at these stats and consider that. Our month of supply is down 10.1%. We have 2.34% supply of inventory. So this is a pretty healthy market. It's actually a really good market if you want to sell, and it's a really good market if you want to buy. It really is a truly good balanced market. Our sales to list price, a lot of people like to look at this. Currently, we're at 97.95%. A year ago, we were at 97.18. So we're actually getting slightly better to our sales price from our asking price than we did a year ago. And our days on market are even better than a year ago, 39 days on average compared to 44 a year ago. Now, our benchmark price clearly is up because we had a very robust spring. We're at 527,000 400. So that's a 10% increase on our benchmark. Our median price is at 460 compared to 425. That's up 8.24%. And our average price is at 499 compared to 474. Keep in mind, these averages I'm giving you, they do include condo. All right, so don't forget that. All right, so let's move on to the other charts that I like looking at. And this is our absorption rate. You look at this every month and you can see we're sitting at 43.78%. Now, this is detached houses that we're looking at right now. So you can see not much difference from August, not much different from July. So the interest rates haven't really impacted the market too much in the detached section from that standpoint. Our benchmark price in detached is 628. So we're slightly down from August, 0.79%. And we're definitely up year over year by 12.89%. So slightly down, but definitely the market is holding. The hard numbers, 971 houses out of 2,218. That's not a bad market, even though at first glance you might think that those are great numbers. Those are fine numbers. What it means is you can sell your house in a reasonable amount of time if you do a few things correct. I often talk about it. You have to be priced in what I would consider to be fair market value. That means you have to be willing to look at comparable homes to yours and be realistic. Don't be too wrapped up in just how much you want out of your house. Be realistic. Try to look at your house through the buyer's eyes and do some of the things inside to get your house to stand out. I'm still amazed at how little the average person puts into effort to sell their house. Your house you live in, the profit you make from it is tax-free. So why not maximize? So why not do everything right? Get the house ready. We help people with this all the time. I mean, I bring in a contractor and oftentimes it's 5 or 10 grand, but wow, it's worth every penny to get the house to stand out. And then when you take those high definition pictures, do the drone shots, do the video, all the marketing kicks in, gets the house looking amazing, and you maximize the sale price. This isn't a really difficult thing, but it seems to be difficult for a lot of people. So I just want to plug in for that, okay? Market distribution. This should be no surprise. Our sweet spot is 500,000 to 600,000. That hasn't changed. Almost 25% of the market wants to buy a house in Calgary between 500,000 and 600,000. That's an affordable price for people right now. There's still inventory 400 to 500 that's detached. As you can see, very, very little under 400,000, but there's still a market for that as well. Just in areas of the city that are a little bit older and smaller homes, more starter homes. The 600 to 700, still a strong market. And when you think of it, 500 to 700 is now almost 50% of the entire market for Calgary. And let's not forget this 1 million to 1.5 million, that luxury market holding steady at 5.14% of the entire market. So if you've got a luxury home, there's still a market there. And the good news for these luxury properties, a lot of the buyers don't need financing. Most of them have made their money and they're paying cash for these houses. So interest rates aren't as big of a deal in the purchase of those, although the house that they're selling to buy that house, the buyer might need mortgage financing for that. Let's take a look at the semi-detached. The story is not far off. 40.16% of the houses listed sold, 562,400 as the benchmark price. That's slightly down 1.21% from August. we're still up 10.5% from September of 2021. So that's good news. There's the hard numbers. 153 out of 381 have sold. So the volume definitely dropped off from August, where we sold 170, and July we sold 173. So a little bit concerning. 37 days on market on average. And you can see that the story hasn't changed much here. You have 300 to 500,000 as almost 50% of the market. And we have noticed that there seems to be more of an interest, even though the numbers dropped a bit. But I just know from me personally, the amount of calls I'm getting, there seems to be more of an interest in some of this lower priced real estate, both from an investment standpoint to rent them out, because rents have actually risen, and just people trying to get into their first home. This is still affordable, especially when you think of a major city like Calgary. You can still get into a semi-detached without condo fees, for $300,000 to $500,000. That's good value. And if you're interested in buying your first home or in a revenue property, these are really good properties to consider. A great place to start your real estate portfolio. Here we're moving into row houses. So these are more otherwise known as townhouses. Our absorption rate definitely is more into the balanced territory of 35.38%. But interestingly enough, it's still in the ballpark all the way from the month of May. So, that seems to be holding up. Our benchmark price, $277,900, and that's slightly up from August. Definitely up from last year, 10.72%. It just goes to show these are desirable properties. People want them. They're the next best thing to buying a house, because they do usually have a small yard, or there's decent square footage to them. And look at the numbers: 450 out of 1,272. Yeah, we're down from 524 and in August, and 513 in July. But that's still a pretty respectable number, and pretty decent for September. And also consider, the first 2 weeks of September are usually a write-off as everybody gets settled in for kids in school and whatnot. So that says a lot to me. 46 days on the market, that's a pretty respectable amount of time to sell your property. And clearly, you can see that these properties, they're not, for most people, it's not their first choice. I mean, most people would love to have a detached home as their first choice, but from an affordability standpoint, you're still getting in under 300,000. I mean, that's 46% of the market. So, there's a real high demand. And I think even with the rising of interest rates, I wouldn't be surprised if we see more of a demand on this as well. And I've been shocked at even how many people from Ontario and BC have been coming out here and buying these as investment properties. They're not afraid of buying these townhouse condos. I know a lot of Calgarians, I often hear, I don't like the condo fees. Well, there actually is value in condo fees. The buildings are insured. They look after the exterior maintenance of the property. They take care of snow removal, all of the landscaping. It's not like you're not getting value for those condo fees, but native Calgarians don't seem to like it as much. But people coming from outside the province, they're not bothered by those condo fees at all. Let's take a look at apartment condos. And this is an interesting story. It just goes to show that none of us have the crystal ball. We can never predict. But the apartment condos are getting a new lease on life. There's now such a stronger interest in them. And this market is with the rising rates, doesn't seem to be affecting the condo market as much at all. I mean, 56.19%. Who would have thought a few years ago that condos would have a higher absorption rate than houses? I mean, nobody could have guessed that, because condos, nobody was really looking at them. And I will tell you, at one point, I think it was around 2017, we were at like 12% absorption rate. So This is amazing. The market is coming back. 362 100. I mean, that's up again 0.22% and up 15% from September 2021. This is great news. I mean, to be at 353 now is we've finally surpassed the peak of 2015. This was the dark time of condos. After 2015, we peaked, and there was a pile of people. If you look at these numbers, how they dropped, it was terrible. There were people that bought at the peak, and their condos were worth considerably less than they paid for it, and they were underwater for all these years. And here we are, 2022, rising interest rates. The condo market is coming back because it's affordable and you can get into the market. There seems to be a renewed interest in them. Partially, I think the economy's improved. Partially, COVID has come to an end. Interest rates have played a role. There's a new generation that seems to be comfortable with them again. I think if you put all of that together, that's why the condo market has improved. There's the hard numbers, 327 out of 582. So we are slightly lower than August, slightly lower than July, but still pretty respectable and doing well. 38 days to sell a condo on average. That's good news. Now, the other thing that's great is that 300 to 400,000 is now 42% of the market. It wasn't long ago that it was literally under 300,000 was the bulk of the condos that have sold. Now, this is still, again, affordability is the key here, because you can see we don't have a very big luxury market for condos. Although interestingly enough, I did sell one for over $1 million just last month, and it sat on the market for almost a year and then finally sold it. So let me just wrap up this by saying this. Despite interest rates, this is a good time to buy a property. I know some of you maybe don't qualify now because of these higher rates, but if you can get in on a fixed rate mortgage, even though that the interest rates have risen and your monthly payment's a little bit higher, consider the fact that rents have gone up too. I think if you do the math, it still works out to be the same to own as to rent. And it's a well-known fact that interest rates will probably come down at some point. Who knows when? I'm guessing at least a couple of years before we start seeing that. So you can just lock in for a 5-year fixed. You're probably going to be fine. And you may as well put money into your property in some equity rather than just paying it in rent. And, if you go the next 5 years and just rent, you got nothing to show for it. At least if you, buy a property, you're putting some equity in your property over the next 5 years. I do think that a lot of eyes are going to be on Calgary. We're seeing an amazing amount of people moving here. I just saw some stats recently. We haven't seen this many people coming to Calgary literally since the 2014, 2015 years. So all of a sudden our economy is improved. We are one of the most affordable provinces in the country, and our GDP is actually going through the roof. We're doing better than any other province in Canada. So if you put all that together, this is a good time to be buying. If you're looking at selling, well, as I said earlier, again, you just have to pay attention to the details. But if you pay attention to those details, trust me on this, with some great marketing, strong negotiation skill, getting your property ready to sell, you'll do just fine. So keep that in mind, and please feel free to reach out to me with any questions. I don't care about your timeline. It doesn't matter to me if you're not ready to pull the trigger anytime soon, but you just want to gather some information. That's what I'm here for. All right. All the best, everyone. And I can't wait to see what this looks like in November.